I grew up with this spoon. This spoon made me late for school every day. And the reason it made me late for school every day, because we were the poorest family in the whole village. We were so poor, we only had one spoon. And I was the youngest of 9. And I had to wait for this spoon to pass down the line every morning to eat my porridge. So this is my spoon. Similarly, the clothes were passed down. And I received, at one point in my young life, a great coat. Now this coat was very warm, but the sleeves were somewhat long, at least 5 inches longer than they should normally be. But I didn't mind, they kept me warm. And as I walked down the village street and past the street corner, the old men standing there would say, "Oh no, that's a fine suit, that's a fine coat. Look at the length of the sleeves on that." And I thought to myself, I was very proud of my coat. So eventually, when I finished high school and I went to live in London, and my Aunt Peg would occasionally look at the sleeves of my coat and didn't say much, but one day she said, "John, maybe we should go visit the local tailor." This is in Paddington area of London. So we toddled off to the local tailor. Now this tailor, I might add, had very thick lenses in his glasses. They were so thick that I thought they looked like flying saucers. They were huge, big open things. So he examined my coat and he made his markings. And I came back 2 days later and I put my coat on, but somehow or other he miscalculated. And the sleeves were now about here, right? So I thought to myself, it's time maybe I bought a new coat. So at that point I'd been working for a little while in a pub called The Hoop in Notting Hill Gate as a barman. And I saved my money, being a good boy. Those days, didn't smoke, didn't drink. Tried to go out with girls, but none of them were allowed. So I saved my money and I bought a nice brown shiny suit at a place called Burton's on the High Street. And I loved that shiny suit. It was so shiny that if passers-by, if the sun was shining and it reflected, it would blind passers-by. So I only went out at night time with my brown shiny suit. So eventually, the Easter came around and I decided to go to Ireland to visit my family. So I went to Ireland to visit my family and I wore my nice brown shiny suit. And the same old men were at the corner of the village intersection. And as I passed down, they would say things like, "Oh no, that's a nice shiny brown suit, a fine suit. He's got great taste in picking clothes, that young fella has." I should have added that I flew to Dublin from London and then took the train from Dublin down to Cork where I lived. So conversely, I had to return that way, but I miscalculated the time of the train and so I missed the train. So the only thing to do was to go out on the road with my little suitcase and to hitchhike. It was quite common in those days. I hitchhiked as a student in England all over the country. So I standing by the side of the road and a big cattle truck drew up. And he opened the window and he says, "Where are you going, young fella?" I said, "I'm going to Dublin." "Well," he says, "I have to stop in Tipperary. If you give me a hand loading the cattle, I'll drop you off in Dublin centre." I said, "Fine, fair enough, that's great." I was used to loading cattle on as growing up as a kid in my grandparents' farm, very used to cattle. So we got to Tipperary and we drew into the field and all the cattle were there and they were milling around, and so we put the ramp down and I was wearing my nice brown shiny suit and we had to round up all the cattle. And as you know, for those of you who've been around cattle, when cattle get nervous, they excrete a lot, an awful lot. And because I was saying, "Whoa, go on, shh, shh, in you go, up there, hey, stop, whoa." Eventually we got the cattle loaded, but by that time, all of the area around the ramp was completely filled. There was a river of cow dung sitting there, and most of it on my pants legs, on my shiny brown suit. So eventually we ended up in the centre of Dublin, and he showed me where to go, catch the bus, go to the airport, and all the rest of it. And so I went to the airport and checked in, and I got a few surprised glances from the receptionist, and yes, Mr. Cleary, proceed that way. So I went on to the plane, and as I walked down the plane, I could see people glancing down and horrified looks on their faces, and kind of holding back a little bit. And I went, eventually found my place, and I was very conscious of the fact that as the air warmed in the cockpit, that the people were beginning to move away from my area. Finally got into London and got the subway system to Notting Hill Gate, and went through the front door of the pub. By this time I knew most people in the pub, all the locals that came in, and of course all the bar staff. And when I opened the front door, people stopped to look, and a silence descended on the whole pub. And then they glanced at one another, and it was almost simultaneous, unprompted. They broke into the refrain of "Like a shiny brown cowboy." And that was my trip to London from my shiny brown suit.